Hey guys, tonight we're stepping 150 million years back in time into a world so dangerous, so impossibly alien, you probably won't survive your first 5 minutes. Tonight we're traveling somewhere very, very far from your cozy bed, about 150 million years back, into the steaming heart of the Jurassic period. The ground is damp, the air is heavy, and the plants, well, they look like they're plotting something. You blink your eyes open and realize you've just woken up on the floor of a prehistoric jungle, surrounded by thick ferns, moss-covered logs, and the distant sound of something stomping the absolute life out of the underbrush. Air smells like wet bark and volcano breath. You try to sit up, but immediately wish you hadn't, because towering over you is a tree that looks like a Dr. Seuss sketch on steroids. And hanging from it, a dragonfly the size of a small pizza. It zips past your head with a buzz that sounds like a lawnmower stuck in second gear. You duck, only to land your hand right in a pile of what you hope is just muddy leaves. Spoiler alert, it's not. There's no time to think too hard about it, though, because the forest around you is alive in the loudest, most unsettling way. Birds? No. Birds don't exist yet, not really. The things chirping overhead are feathered. Yes, but they've got claws on their wings and teeth in their beaks. You try not to make eye contact, so before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is over there, so drop a comment with your location and local time. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You take a shaky breath and try to stand up. Your shoes? Gone. Your phone? Useless. No signal here unless you've got a satellite tower and a million years worth of patience. The jungle floor is a slick mat of decomposing plant life and the occasional suspiciously fresh footprint 3. Toes, the size of dinner plates, and still sinking into the mud. Whatever made that is not far away. The canopy blocks out most of the sun, but you can feel it anyway beating down the back of your neck like a heat lamp on full blast. You're sweating in seconds, and not just from fear. Jurassic humidity is no joke. Oxygen levels were higher then, which means you're breathing in more with every panicked inhale. Sounds good, right? Wrong. Your lungs aren't built for this much gas exchange. You're lightheaded, like you've been blowing up balloons for an hour straight. Historians still argue whether this exact period had stable climates or wildly fluctuating tropical storms. But judging by the thunderheads rolling in over the volcanic ridges ahead, we'll go with yes. You're drenched in jungle sweat, trying to push through ferns the size of patio umbrellas, and suddenly, everything goes quiet. Dangerously quiet. That although grunt dot, it's not close, but it's not far enough either. The underbrush rustles like it's trying to sneak up on you, and then something massive, slow, and breathing very, very loudly plods across a clearing up ahead. You freeze. It's a stegosaurus. Yes, like the one on your 5th grade lunchbox. Except this one is real, and enormous, the size of a bus. Plates shimmering in the dim light. Tail twitching like it's annoyed with the humidity too. You want to reach for your camera force. Of habit, but all you've got is a broken zipper on your pants and a healthy dose of fear. The stego seems peaceful enough, until something else much, much bigger lets out a roar from deeper in the jungle. That's not a bus. That's more like a freight train with teeth. The stegosaurus bolts. And you? You run in the opposite direction. Full-on panic sprint, tripping over roots, ducking under vines, and trying not to scream every time a bug lands. On you, which is every 3 seconds. You burst through a thicket and tumble into a small clearing. Your heart's pounding, your legs are trembling, and your foot is now firmly planted in a very sticky puddle of something that smells like prehistoric soy sauce. Nice. You pull it out with a squelch, which unfortunately echoes. That's when you hear it, the snap of a branch. Not a normal one. A thigh-thick branch, snapped clean like a breadstick. Something with weight is following you now. You duck down, chest heaving, trying to make yourself as small as possible. The foliage rustles, and you catch a glimpse of something long, lean, and much too fast slinking past in the shadows. Maybe it didn't see you. Maybe it's full. Maybe. Nope. It turns its head. Yellow eyes. Teeth. A velociraptor, or something equally rude. It sniffs, clicks its claws on a rock, then darts off not toward you, but away. You should be relieved. You're not, because if that thing is scared, you definitely should be. And just as you try to stand again, you hear a thump. Then another, rhythmic, steady, getting louder. You look up, squinting through the thick green gloom, and that's when you see it not far in the distance. Something moves between the trees. Trees that sway with each step it takes. Something tall, carnivorous, and likely interested in exactly one thing. Protein. Yours. You freeze, every inch of your body, instantly regretting the decision to time travel barefoot into a dinosaur-infested sauna. That rhythm you're hearing? That slow, deliberate thump-thump shaking the forest floor like a giant's heartbeat? Yeah, it's coming closer. And no, it's not some gentle herbivore looking for a cuddle. The air is heavy with tension, and also with about 3 times more pollen than your sinuses are prepared for. Your eyes water, and you let out a sneeze so loud that somewhere, in some ancient bush, a squirrel-like creature probably died of fright. You slap a hand over your nose. Too late. The thudding stops. Something knows you're here now. See. You were born for climate-controlled spaces and instant noodles. The Jurassic? This place is born for scale, speed, and survival of the toothiest. Your body is too soft, too slow, and way too attached to shoes. You have no fur, no claws, no venom, and let's be honest, you probably haven't done a proper sprint since high school gym class. And that's okay. Most people wouldn't last long out here. Paleontologists estimate the average human would make it about 10 minutes unarmed in the wilds of the Mesozoic before becoming a weird smear in a future fossil record. And it's not just about the predators. You take a few hesitant steps backward, a forest holding its breath with you. Leaves brush your arms with a damp slap. A vine tries to trip you rude. You stumble, catch yourself, and step on something that hisses. It's a lizard. Except this one's the size of a loaf of bread and has frills that shoot out like a collapsing umbrella. It sprints off in a blur of scales, screeching as it goes. You barely recover before something else dives at your leg fast, low, and very. Toothy. This one's no loaf. It's more like a small dog with the personality of a chainsaw. You swat it off with a branch, yelling out a string of words that wouldn't survive a PG-13 edit. It scampers away, but not before sinking a few teeth into your ankle. Great. You're bleeding. Probably infected. There's no Neosporin in this timeline, either. And here's the thing. While most people imagine Jurassic threats as big T-Rex-style chompers, it's the little guys who'll get you first. Insects with wingspans longer than your forearm. Centipedes. That hiss. Tiny pack hunters with too many teeth and zero respect. You're soft meat in a world that loves biting. Historians still argue whether these smaller theropods hunted in packs or just shared good real estate. But either way, the result is the same. A sudden flurry of claws and feathers and teeth when you least expect it. You push on, limping now, ankle throbbing. You need to get somewhere open, somewhere high, somewhere the ground doesn't bite back. A ridge, maybe. You spot a sloping hill more, like a series of rocks, pretending to be stairs and start climbing. Every step pulls at muscles you forgot existed. You're wheezing. Your sweat has sweat. And behind you, you hear the foliage rustling again. The big footsteps haven't returned yet, but that doesn't mean you're safe. Not at the top of the ridge. You finally catch a glimpse of what you're really dealing with. A wide valley stretches out below, filled with green, misty swamplands and herds of massive, lumbering shapes. Sauropods, probably. Long necks swaying like cranes, tails dragging behind them like lazy snakes. The scale is ridiculous. These things make buses look like chew toys. But you also see something smaller faster. A group of agile bipeds darting through the grass at unnatural speed. You squint. Are those allosaurs? They look like they skipped leg day for nothing. Sharp jaws, long claws, and a look that says, "We run this timeline." You sit down for a second, heart pounding. You've got nothing. No weapons, no survival skills. You're basically a meat-flavored tourist, lost at the world's deadliest amusement park. A very itchy one. Whatever bit you earlier left a welt the size of a ping-pong ball on your leg, and you're 90% sure it's either infected or about to develop its own ecosystem. As you're catching your breath, a buzzing grows louder. You look up and instantly regret it. A swarm of insects, mosquitoes, maybe, are descending. Except these aren't modern ones. They look like someone gave normal bugs an upgrade and a bad attitude. You wave your arms like you're at a rave, but it's too late. They're on you, biting, buzzing, crawling into your ears, your sleeves, your hair. It's awful. You scream. They don't care. Frantically, you slide back down the ridge, swatting as you go, tripping on the same vine that mocked you earlier. You land hard. Another mosquito takes the opportunity to dive bomb your neck, even if you could fight off the young. Bugs and the lizards, and whatever else is currently sniffing at your blood trail. There's something worse about all of it. You're completely, utterly alone. No roads. No cities. No comforting Starbucks or signal bars. Just endless green, hungry mouths. And the knowledge that everything here is better at surviving than you are. Welcome to the Jurassic. You're now limping through a forest that feels like it's watching you. Every creaking tree branch sounds like a neck turning. Every distant rustle? Definitely your due in progress. You can't even enjoy the scenery because you're too busy imagining what kind of toothy prehistoric thing is lurking just out of view. Spoiler, it's several kinds. And none of them respect your personal space. Suddenly, you stumble into a small clearing. It's quiet, suspiciously quiet. You slow down, chest heaving. Maybe this is a safe spot? Maybe you finally found a pocket of peace? Then you hear it, a chirrup, not bird-like. More like a blender full of marbles. From behind a tree trunk. No. In front of you scuttles something you could only describe as prehistoric nightmare chicken. It's small, feathery, with beady eyes and a mouth full of tiny serrated teeth. It hisses, then more rustling behind you. You whirl around. Another. Then 3 more. The forest is now alive with these tiny raptors that look like someone crossed a turkey with a velociraptor and then gave it anger management issues. You freeze. There's a well-known fact among paleontologists. Many smaller Jurassic predators likely hunted in packs. And sure, historians still argue whether these creatures actually coordinated their attacks or simply swarmed their prey out of mutual bloodlust. But that's not your concern right now. Your concern is that you're in the middle of a half circle of angry, bite-sized monsters who see you as the world's dumbest. Mammal snack. You grab a stick. Useless. You wave your arms. They're not impressed. One lunges and you smack it mid-air. It lands hard and scrambles back into the bushes. But now you've made the others mad. You make a run for it. Again, you're panting. Your legs are on fire. Your brain is screaming. This wasn't in the tourism brochure. You sprint through low branches and swarms of gnats, trying to outpace the death-flavored poultry behind you. Then, you tripped out of course. You do. You go down in a tumble of arms and legs and land in something. Wet. Not water. Not mud. Something stickier. Something that bubbles. Welcome to your next problem. Prehistoric algae swamp. It looks like a normal puddle, but hides slick mats of slimy, ancient plant life that's just as happy to eat sunlight as it is to eat your dignity. You're stuck, at least your leg is. You pull hard, and with a loud slurp, you free yourself minus one shoe. Great, a one-shoed idiot in a dinosaur buffet line. You scramble to your feet and keep running, this time downhill into denser brush. The little raptor turkeys are gone. Maybe they lost interest. Or maybe they decided to tag in something bigger. The jungle shifts again, and the ground changes. It's more open here, rockier, with patches of sun peeking through. And sun, as you're now learning, means basking lizards. Only these aren't lizards. They're more like crocodile-salamander hybrids with the energy of a cat that hasn't eaten all day. One of them lifts its head as you approach. It's long, thick-bodied, and wearing a permanent frown. It doesn't move, just watches and Ash snap. A blur from the left, and another one launches itself toward you. You jump sideways, barely avoiding its teeth. You're back on your feet in a heartbeat. It's not the most graceful movement, but hey, desperation looks good on you. See, many of the creatures from this era weren't just big and toothy. They were fast. Evolution didn't mess around. These things were designed by millions of years of trial and error. And you? You were designed by a species that invented slippers with bottle openers in them. You retreat. Carefully now. Backward. Steps. The basking ambush lizards don't follow. They weren't hungry this time, but you've learned something important. Even the little guys are terrifying. Not just because they're bitey, but because they know they run this place. There are no humans here. No predators who carry fire or knives. You're an anomaly, and not a threatening one. As you move back into the foliage, you spot another. Strange sight. A log that's moving? Nope. It's a millipede. Maybe 2 meters long, brightly colored, curling and uncurling as it feels its way across the moss. You step around it. No way are you adding prehistoric centipede venom to your problems today. Bet you find a moment of rest beneath a huge fern. You lean against it. It collapses under your weight. You're now lying in damp dirt and leaves and thinking seriously about whether it would be better to just let the next predator take you. Fewer mosquito bites that way. There's a bit of breeze. Now, and you close your eyes just long enough to imagine what life must have been like for any theoretical early mammals skulking around here. Most were rat-sized, nocturnal, and probably very, very good at hiding. You are not. You're loud. You smell weird. And you just made eye contact with a lizard again. The sky darkens slightly as something huge flies overhead. At first you think it's a cloud, but clouds don't flap. You crane your neck to look up and instantly regret it. That wasn't a bird, not even close. What just flew overhead had a wingspan longer than a truck and a head shaped like a scythe. It banks slowly, casting a shadow that glides across the forest like a warning. Label: congratulations. You've now officially encountered a pterosaur, and not one of the cute little ones either. No, this is something closer to pteranodon, or maybe Quetzalcoatlus, a flying creature that looks like someone, crossbred a bat with a hang glider, and gave it a cruel sense of humor. Its wing membranes ripple as it circles, and you realize, with a cold drop in your stomach, that it's watching you. You duck under the nearest tree cover and press yourself against a thick, barky trunk. You're not entirely sure pterosaurs ate people well. Technically, they never ate people because people weren't around, but looking at its long beak and unblinking eyes, you decide not to test the theory. Historians still argue whether the largest pterosaurs could take off from the ground or had to jump off cliffs. Lucky for you, you didn't show up near a cliff. Unlucky for you, they're definitely airborne now, and they probably didn't evolve all that flight hardware just to look majestic. You move on, slower this time, sticking to the shadows. You're trying to be quiet, but every twig snaps underfoot, like you're stepping on cereal. The jungle is a riot of sound-distant calls, chirps, howls, and now the soft rustling of something in the canopy above. You freeze. Look up. Something stares down at you with round eyes and twitching fingers. It's not big, but it's fast. Possibly one of the earliest tree-dwelling proto-mammals. Or, if you're less lucky, a juvenile raptor. Either way, you don't want to stick around. You continue on and finally reach a slope leading down toward what looks like a stream. Water. Finally. Your tongue feels like it's been sandpapered. Your lips are cracked. You haven't had a drink since falling into this Jurassic hellhole, and suddenly a babbling brook is the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. You stumble forward, kneel at the water's edge, and dip your hands in dot. It's warm and a little slimy, but you're too thirsty to care. You drink. Not the best decision, not the worst either. So far dot, then dash movement dot the surface of the water ripples, not upstream. Right next to you. You freeze, hands still cupped. Slowly, something long and dark slips past your peripheral vision. You turn. Your head. A fin. A big one. And it's not moving away. You scramble back from the edge, heart punching your ribs. The water erupts. For a split second, you see it. Long snout, dozens of sharp conical teeth, and small dark eyes like a crocodile. But way too long. You don't wait for a better look. You run. Again, this is the point in your journey where you realize that even water, the universal symbol of life, is just another danger zone here. That river? It's home to prehistoric fish with armor-plated heads and jaws that open like industrial machinery. Not to mention the amphibians longer than your couch that lived in these wetlands, like Cyclotosaurus or Metaposaurus names. That sound less like animals and more like rejected Decepticons. Your lungs are burning. Your legs are covered in scratches and insect bites. And you're really starting to hate nature. Eventually, you come upon a small patch of high ground, a rocky ledge that juts out over the river like a natural balcony. You collapse onto it, exhausted, filthy, and deeply offended by the Jurassic period's hospitality. From this vantage point, you can finally see how alive this world truly is. Herds move slowly across the plains. Swarms drift between trees. Flocks of something not quite birds flap overhead. The landscape is lush, green, and possibly vast. A volcano smolders in the far distance, painting the sky with thin ribbons of smoke. It's beautiful, yes, but terrifying. Because you don't belong here. You're not just a visitor. You're a walking contradiction. No fur, no armor, no venom, no built-in weapons. You are a squishy bag of nerves and calcium in a world built for survival on a much, much more violent scale. You wonder, briefly, how any early mammals made it through this. Tiny shrew-like things, hiding in burrows, scurrying by moonlight, eating. Insects and preying, they wouldn't become snacks themselves. It's humbling to know your great dash, great dash, great dash, great dash, a dash million dash times dash grandparents survived this long enough to eventually create smartphones and nachos. But you don't have that. Evolutionary street cred. You are painfully, hilariously out of your depth. You lie back on the warm rock, trying to catch your breath, eyes scanning the sky. Another shadow flits past. You sigh. This was supposed to be an adventure, A walk through history. A sleepy little story before bed. And now, you're on day one of the worst camping trip in Earth's entire timeline. You're barely catching your breath on that rocky ledge when your stomach lets out a low, painful growl. Right, food you haven't eaten. You haven't even thought about eating until now, because frankly, fear is an appetite suppressant. But now that the initial panic is wearing off well, welcome to prehistoric hunger. You glance around. There's no vending machine in sight. No berries, no protein bars tucked under a rock. The plants surrounding you are lush and alien. You spot something that looks like a cluster of ancient figs growing on a low bush. They glisten in the dappled light like fruit you'd see in a very judgmental organic grocery store. You reach for one. Sniff it. Sweet. You take a tentative nibble and instantly regret every decision that led you here. Your mouth burns. Not like chili spice burn, like chemical peel burn. You spit it out, gasping. Somewhere, a squirrel-like creature chitters in judgment. Historians still argue whether some of the plant life during this time was toxic or just hard to digest for mammals. But for you, in this exact moment, the answer is clear. Very. Your modern digestive system is wildly unprepared for the buffet of ferns, psychedioids, and horsetails offered by the Jurassic jungle. The good news? Most of the plants are too fibrous to chew. The bad news? Even if you could chew them, you probably shouldn't. Many ancient plants had defensive compounds. Think natural pesticides with side effects like internal fireworks and unpleasant bathroom emergencies you don't have plumbing for. You hobble forward and come across something that gives you hope and egg. A big one, nestled in a shallow scrape of dirt, warmed from the sun. You pause. Is it abandoned? Or just momentarily unguarded? It's about the size of a watermelon and speckled, like it came from a dragon. You stare at it. It stares back. Okay, not really, but it feels like it does. You touch it gently. It's warm, smooth, very egg-like, and you are very hungry. You glance around. No movement. No footsteps. No growling. You're alone. So, in a moment of desperation that will haunt you in every dino documentary flashback for the rest of your life, you decide to crack it open. You use a rock, tapping gently at first, then harder. The shell gives way. With a crunch and a wet squelch. You gag. Inside is a mix of goo, veins, and something almost formed. You can't tell if it's alive. You don't want to know. You put the rock down and back away, stomach doing a little somersault. Whatever you thought you were capable of. Eating dinosaur omelet, wasn't it? Just then a hiss. Not from the egg, from behind you. You turn slowly, heart sinking faster than a sinkhole. There she is. Feathers, eyes, teeth, a mama raptor. Or maybe it's an oviraptor. Historians still debate whether they were egg thieves or egg guardians. But you're in no mood to discuss taxonomy. All you know is she's staring at her crushed egg, then at you, and drawing some conclusions you definitely don't like. You run. Again. Because at this point, you might as well rename this entire experience Jurassic jogging. You crash through vines and leap over roots like you're in an obstacle course made by a sadist botanist. Behind you, the hiss becomes a screech. Brush parts violently. She's chasing you. This one is smaller than some of the previous predators you've seen, sleeker, more agile. She leaps over fallen logs like she's on springs. You, meanwhile, trip over a rock and barely keep your balance. You dart down a slope into thicker brush. Thorns tear at your arms. Bugs fly into your eyes. You're bleeding, limping, and seriously considering apologizing to the egg. You finally reach a fallen tree and wedge yourself underneath. Belly down in the mud. Silence. You wait. Heart pounding. In your ears, nothing. just your ragged breathing and the rustle of distant leaves. Eventually, the sound of footsteps fades. Maybe she gave up. Maybe she realized you weren't worth the effort. Or maybe unsettling thought she's just circling. You lie there, not moving. It's warm, uncomfortably so. The mud beneath you is squishy and faintly sulfurous. You realize you've planted yourself in a thermal patch maybe, even a volcanic seep dot that checks out. Volcanic activity during the Jurassic was common after all. It shaped continents, carved lakes, and conveniently created unexpected landmines like this one. You roll out from under the tree just in time to avoid the smell intensifying into eye-watering territory. You crawl away, gasping out. Your stomach growls again, more insulted than hungry now. You pull yourself to your feet, wobbling, filthy from head to toe. Your ankle still aches. Your clothes are basically torn rags, and you're more snack than survivor. Look around and realize just how many layers of the food chain you've fallen through. You can't eat the plants. You can't hunt the animals. You can't even steal an egg without nearly getting murdered. A butterfly flutters past. Or maybe it's a moth. Or maybe it's some proto-insect with venomous wing scales. You're too tired to care. You just follow it. Because at this point, it's leading you somewhere, and you've got nowhere else to go. The sun dips lower through the canopy. You're dirty, hungry, slightly traumatized, and somehow still here, barely. You stumble forward, following the fading light through thickets of fern and palm-like trees that wave lazily overhead, like they're taunting your exhaustion. The jungle is hot, buzzing, and alive with creatures that seem built specifically to make sure you don't make it to bedtime. Your ankle throbs. Your arms are scratched and stinging. Your mouth is dry again, even after the whole swamp water sip and regret experience. But there's something worse now. You smell smoke dot. It's faint, more like a whisper than a shout, just a slight tang in the air, like someone lit a match in a forest made entirely of moss. You stop, sniff again. Yep, definitely smoke. And you? Remember something from science class you wish you didn't. High atmospheric oxygen levels during the Jurassic meant forest fires were both common and terrifyingly fast. Think lightning strike to a wall of fire in less than a minute. Historians still argue whether fire-adapted ecosystems had already evolved by the Jurassic period, or if most vegetation simply incinerated. But you're not writing a paper. You're in a fern thicket with flammable everything and smoke in the air. You start to hurry. Well, hobble faster. The heat is rising not from the sun, but from the ground itself. You climb over a fallen tree, nearly slip on its slick bark, and find yourself standing at the edge of a long slope filled with volcanic rubble. The rocks here are darker, jagged, and sharp. Your bare feet are not pleased, but this is the only open space for miles. You can see the source of the smoke now. Far off, to your left, a dark plume rises above the trees, like the world's worst birthday candle. Somewhere under it, the forest glows. Not orange, not red, but a dull, sinister pulse. That volcano? It's awake, and you're downwind. You move up the slope quickly, ignoring every protest from your muscles. The higher you climb, the less dense the forest becomes. Fewer trees mean fewer predators. You hope. The air thins a little, cooler for a moment. It's a relief until the wind shifts. Suddenly, the smoke is in your face. You cough, eyes watering, lungs burning. You cover your mouth with your shirt, which, at this point, is basically a damp rag with dreams, and press on. The wind dies again. The smoke retreats like it's teasing you. But that sulfur smell? Still hanging around. And then, as you reach the ridge line, you see it. Not just the volcano. Not just the smoke. A field of bubbling, steaming mud pots and shallow vents, like some ancient spa from hell. Geysers of gas hiss out of cracks in the earth. Pools of thick gray sludge bubble ominously. The ground is pockmarked with soft-looking patches that whisper, "Fall through me and never come back." So of course, you walk through it carefully, very carefully. Your bare foot sinks an inch into soft ground and you freeze, slowly lift. No give, you exhale. Keep moving. Step by step, you zigzag across the cracked landscape, dodging hissing steam vents and patches of scorched moss. The smell is intense sulfur and something vaguely rotten, like eggs that lost a bar fight. You're halfway across when you hear it again. Dot thump dot that sound. That massive rhythmic impact. Not the volcano this time. Not thunder. Something walking. Something big. You whip around Dot at first. You see nothing, just mist curling off the vents. Then, the shadow Dot, it's massive. Four-legged, spiked tail. Humped. Back. A stegosaurus, or something close to it, lumbering between steam clouds like a heat-borne ghost. Its plates catch the light, giving off a dull shine. Its head swings low, near the ground, sniffing Dot it hasn't seen you yet. And frankly, it's not the kind of creature you expect trouble from. But still you back away slowly. Because any animal that size, even a herbivore, doesn't need to try to crush you. It can do that by accident. Like a toddler stepping on a Lego. Only you're the Lego Dot as it passes. You hold your breath. One misplaced sneeze and you're a pancake Dot. It pauses Dot sniffs. Dot looks your way. And sneezes Dot loud. Wet, plant-chunked. You flinch. But it doesn't charge. It just shuffles on, tail dragging a trench behind it, and disappears into the haze. You release your breath slowly and collapse to your knees. And now, you're coughing again. Not from fear, well. Okay, a bit from fear, but mostly from the air. You forgot what volcano-adjacent oxygen feels like. Not great. Your lungs are working overtime just to keep you upright. You crawl forward toward a pile of rocks that might offer a place to rest. Sit. Try to think. You haven't seen another human in what feels like years, though it's been, what? 8 hours? 9? Maybe 12? You've lost all sense of time. There's no sun visible now. Just a dim gray light diffused through the smoke and mist. You look at your hands. Filthy. Your clothes are shredded. You smell like roasted algae and regret. You lean back against the rocks and close your eyes for just a moment. Just to rest. That's when you hear the hiss dot not steam dot closer dot lower dot you. Open your eyes to find a pair of slitted ones staring back at you, belonging to something long, scaly, and very much awake. You freeze. Again, honestly. You're getting really good at this whole statue in the face of doom routine. The eyes staring back at you belong to a creature coiled half in shadow, half in steam. Its body is long and serpentine, but not a snake. Not quite. It has legs short, clawed, and disturbingly silent. Its head is triangular, mouth slightly open to reveal a row of tiny, sharp teeth. It blinks once, slowly. Then it flicks its tongue at you, tasting the air like it's reading your fear in braille. You try not to move, not to breathe, not to look like a protein bar with legs Dot. It sniffs again. Then it does the most unexpected thing. It turns and slides away. Just like that. No attack. No dramatic leap. Just a you're not worth it exit. Tail flicking through the mist as it disappears between some hissing vents. You're not sure whether to feel relieved or insulted. You let out a shaky breath. Sit there for a while, surrounded by bubbling mud, volcanically charged fog, and your own extremely frayed nerves. Your body is exhausted, dehydrated, lightly bruised, emotionally shredded, and now just kind of vibrating from sheer adrenaline. Eventually, you peel yourself off the rock and limp back toward the forest edge, anything to get away from the geothermal. Death trap. Your foot catches on a root. You fall again. At this point, it's tradition that you land near a patch of broken branches and churned earth. Something heavy passed through here recently. You follow the trail, unsure why. Maybe it's curiosity. Maybe it's delirium. Maybe it's just better than standing still and waiting for something to eat you. The trail leads you to an open glade, and that's when you see it dot bones, dot a lot of them. Some picked clean, some half buried, some massive like rib cages you could crawl inside and take a nap in if they didn't scream active murder zone. At the center of it all, a half-eaten carcass of something large and unfortunate. You can't tell what it was, just that it had a long neck, thick legs, and very, very bad luck. And crouched over it, a predator huge feathered blood streaked and chewing. You suck in a breath and immediately regret the noise. Its head jerks up It looks like a dromaeosaur, bigger than any turkey and angrier than all of them put together. About the size of a tiger, with long claws, curved toe talons, and eyes that don't blink enough. It lets out a low growl, not a roar. More like a warning. A leave now or become dessert kind of sound. You back away slowly. It doesn't follow, just watches. You're out of the glade in under 5 seconds. Heart thumping like a jazz drummer on espresso. You duck under low branches and climb over another fallen log. Pushing into deeper, darker forest it's cooler here. Still, quieter. Then, miracle of miracles, you hear water not a muddy puddle or swamp this time. A stream. Clear. Flowing. Singing its little burbling stream song like it's auditioning for a meditation app. You crawl toward it, half laughing, half sobbing. Dip your hands in. Cold. Clean. Drink. Splash your face. You could cry. You might actually be crying Then you notice the tracks three-toed. Deep, fresh, not human. Definitely not. You scan the area. Heart suddenly doing backflips. There's something else here. Something that drinks from this stream. 2. You follow the tracks a few steps upstream. Carefully. Quietly. Your ankle still hurts, but you're in that weird, half-zombie stage of exhaustion. Now where pain is more of a concept than a feeling. And then, just through the trees, you see it. A nest, but not a raptor nest. Bigger, carefully made, lined with ferns and moss. Guarded, though, you don't see the adult yet. Inside, huge eggs the size of basketballs. One of them hatching. You stare, unable to look away, as a wet, squirmy baby dino pushes out. Eyes closed, squeaking softly It's kind of cute, like a weird mix of kitten, bird, and lizard. A living, breathing relic from the past. You crouch low, breath shallow. Watching, just for a moment. You're not going to touch anything. You've learned. Then, behind you a low growl. You turn, and there it is the mother at least 3 meters tall. Sleek feathers. Narrow snout. A stare so intense, it might cook you on the spot. She steps forward once, claws digging into the moss You raise your hands. Back away. She growls again. You run no time to apologize. No time to explain. You dive into a bush, crawl through dirt and thorns, get tangled in vines. You don't care. You just move. Eventually, silence. She doesn't follow. You lie flat in the brush for a while, panting, then laughing. A little bit hysterically, because somehow you're still alive barely and very, very ready for a nap. When you finally drag yourself out of the brush, you're less person and more walking compost pile. Your legs are caked with dried mud. Your shirt is basically a suggestion, and your hair has taken on the texture of fossilized kelp. You look in, Smell like you lost a fight with a swamp, a lizard, and a small fire. Which, in fairness, you kind of did, but you're alive. Again, and that counts for something. You shuffle forward into a clearing as the light begins to shift again, cooler now, like late afternoon, or maybe morning, or maybe you've just hallucinated. The passage of time. Either way, your body is done, finished, checked out. You sink to your knees at the base of a towering cycad tree and lean your head back against its strange, scaled trunk. Birds chirp overhead, or creatures that sound like birds. The Jurassic soundtrack is oddly soothing when it isn't screaming at you. Your eyes flutter closed, just for a second, but sleep in the bed. Jurassic is about as safe as a nap on a highway. Because the moment you begin to drift, the air pressure shifts. The sounds change. Something is coming. Something big. You don't hear it so much as feel it deep in your chest, vibrating in your ribs. You scramble up, groggy and sore, just as the ground gives a subtle tremble. A shadow falls across the clearing. You look up and up and up, it's here. Your brain scrambles for a name, but honestly, none of them do it justice. Maybe Brachiosaurus? Or one of its cousins. It towers above you like a mobile skyscraper, all thick legs and a neck that goes so high, it disappears into the canopy. Like a tree trunk with ambitions, it lumbers into the clearing, utterly unconcerned by your presence. You're not prey. You're not a threat. You're barely relevant, You step backward and watch in dumbstruck awe as it lowers its long neck to feed. A whole branch disappears into its mouth with a crunch that echoes like someone demolishing a salad bar with a backhoe, It's beautiful, and massive. And somehow peaceful. For the first time since you arrived in this prehistoric mess, you feel something resembling calm. This creature isn't here to eat you. It's not hiding teeth behind feathers. It's just existing, grazing, breathing. There's something oddly comforting about it. That is, until the second one arrives. This one's smaller, younger maybe. It lets out a low bellow so loud your ears pop. A whole flock of whatever birds explode from soon. A nearby tree. You duck reflexively, but the big ones don't even blink. They just grunt at each other in low, tectonic rumbles and keep munching. You sit back down, slowly this time. Maybe if you don't move, you can soak in this rare moment of Jurassic stillness. A break from all the running, bleeding, and questioning your life choices. You close your eyes again, just for a heartbeat. That's when the real noise starts. A sharp screech, then another. Third. From the other side of the clearing, sprinting through the underbrush like arrows fired from a crossbow, comes a pack of smaller dinosaurs, bipedal, feathery, with sickle-shaped toe claws and jaws open in warning. They're not attacking the Brachiosaurs. No one's dumb enough to do that. They're hunting something else, something smaller. You see it a second, later darting out of the underbrush like a furry torpedo. It's about the size of a raccoon and moves like a pinball. One of the earliest. Mammals, maybe. Some kind of ancient shrew. Or a possum ancestor. It zigs, zags, leaps, hides, and the raptors follow fast, coordinated, focused historians. Still argue whether these mid-sized predators hunted with strategy or sheer chaos. But either way, they're efficient. They split up. Flank, corner, and you, idiot that you are standing right in the way. The shrew thing darts under your legs, and the raptors don't even blink. They're coming right through you. You dive sideways. One claws past your hip. Another brushes your shoulder. You hit the ground hard, roll, and come face to face with the last of the pack. A young one. Slower, still learning the moves. It freezes. So do you blinks, sniffs, then bolts after the others. You lie there in the dust, breathing in big, panicked gulps. The Brachiosaurs? Still chewing. Unbothered. completely unfazed by the chaos that just unfolded at their feet. One of them steps over you like you're a rock dot. This is their world. And you? You're just passing through barely. Eventually, the sounds fade. The hunters vanish. The prey is either gone or digested. The clearing falls back into its lazy rhythm. Buzzing insects, chirping birds, the distant rumble of something volcanic. Don't try to get up this time. You just lie there, eyes closed, letting the Jurassic swirl around you. It's not paradise. It's not home. But for one strange moment, it's quiet. You're still lying flat on the forest floor, partially buried in leaf litter, when you realize something weird. You're not in pain, not hungry, not even scared. For the first time since waking up in this prehistoric fever dream, your body is still, like you finally synced up with the rhythm of this wild, unrelenting world. It's almost meditative, in that I've given up on everything kind of way. You slowly rise to a seated position. Around you, the clearing has returned to its Jurassic hum. Distant thuds, a whistle from some unseen creature, the rustling of leaves in a breeze that carries just a hint of volcanic spice. You stand well, more like unfold, and take a slow, wobbling step toward the forest's edge. There's a trail now, almost. A narrow path trampled through brush and broken branches, like it's inviting you forward, which is never suspicious. Ever you press on, the terrain shifts again, becoming drier, rockier. The ground crunches beneath. Your feet bones? Shells? Petrified plant matter? You don't want to know. You're too tired to care. Your only real goal now is to stay upright and try not to become a cautionary fossil. As you round a large stone outcrop, a gust of wind nearly knocks you over. You grab a tree trunk for balance and notice something up ahead. Not movement, stillness. A plateau, high ground. With a view you climb. Slowly, it's steep, and your muscles scream with every step. But something drives you, maybe instinct, maybe curiosity, maybe the faint hope of a way out at the top. You stop and stare. The view is breathtaking. Sprawling valleys of green stretch as far as the eye can see. Rivers wind like silver threads between ridges. Smoke coils lazily from a distant volcano. Herds of enormous creatures graze peacefully in the lowlands' long-necked sauropods. Horned beasts you can't name, and something resembling an ancient armadillo the size of a jeep above them. Winged reptiles glide silently. Pterosaurs, huge and small, weaving lazy loops in the thermals like ancient kites. Sand for the first time. You feel it, wonder, yes. This place has tried to kill you roughly 17 different ways. But it's also astonishing. Every square foot, teeming with life. Every shadow hiding a creature you've only seen in books or movies. A world before people. Before machines. Before microwaves and Mondays. You sit on the edge of the plateau and just watch for a while. You trace the horizon with your eyes, feeling both utterly insignificant and strangely connected to everything below. A lone, confused time traveler. In a land where time hasn't even figured itself out yet. Your fingers trail along the stone beneath you, smooth in places, sharp in others. And then something catches your eye. A pattern. No, a groove. Like a symbol carved, deliberately. You brush away dirted. A spiral. Faint, worn, but definitely not natural. Your heart skips. Someone else has been here. You trace it slowly, your brain flipping through explanations like a slot machine. Ancient. Human? No, impossible. Not in the Jurassic. Then who or what? It's not just one carving. There's another and another. A line of them, almost like a trail marker. You stand, heart pounding for a different reason now, and follow them. They lead you around the plateau's edge to a low overhang barely visible through thick vines. You push through and find a shallow cave. Cool, dry, echoing with your breath. Inside, not much, just more spirals. On the walls, on the floor, on a smooth rock in the center, like some kind of altar. You walk in slowly, the air around you thick with meaning you can't explain. Thin click under fuchsia. Look down. There's a depression in the stone. Your foot just triggered it. You freeze. Nothing happens. Then everything does. Light from nowhere. The spirals begin to glow pale blue, pulsing like slow heartbeats. The air shimmers. The space around you bends. You stumble back as the cave dissolves into brilliance. Light swallowing the stone, the sky, the heat, the sound. You're falling again, or rising? Hard to tell. It doesn't feel like death. It feels like return. You close your eyes as the Jurassic melts away, and just like that, silence. Cool air, familiar gravity. You blink. You're lying on your back in grass, modern grass. Sky above you is the pale blue of late afternoon. A contrail cuts across at you. Sit up slowly, your back clothes torn, body filthy, but alive, and somehow changed you. Glance around. No spirals, no cave, no raptors, just birds. Real ones. You're safe, maybe, maybe not, because as you stand and dust yourself off, you notice something tucked in your waistband. Something smooth, round. A fossil, spiral shaped, still warm. You stare at it for a long time. Then, without thinking, you whisper, "Thanks." You're standing in a field that smells like home, fresh grass, damp soil, maybe even a whiff of someone grilling in the distance. There's wind in the trees, actual birds, a car horn far off. Civilization. And yet, your knees are still shaking. Your fingers curl around the spiral fossil in your pocket like a lifeline, like proof that everything you just experienced wasn't a fever dream cooked up by sunstroke and a bad nap. You turn slowly in place, scanning the area. You don't recognize it, but it feels familiar, like a place you should know. Trees too neatly spaced, trails too perfectly maintained. A wooden bench in the distance, slightly askew. You realize you're in a park. A modern park docked in the distance. Two joggers pass, chatting. You duck behind a bush. You look down at yourself and sigh. You look like a very convincing cosplay of prehistoric castaway. Torn clothes, bruises, scratches, some weird yellow mud clinging to your shoulder. A smear of something green across your face that may or may not be ancient lichen. You wipe it off with a leaf, because why not continue the theme? Eventually, you emerge and wander toward the nearest paved path, limping slightly. The joggers glance your way, clearly startled, but before they can say anything, you mutter something about a lost film shoot and limp past them. Nice save. Find a bench, sit, breathe. You're out, but something about being back here, the real world, feels surreal. No rumbling footsteps, no ancient roars, no creeping sense that every tree is watching you. Just the whir of distant traffic and someone's dog barking at a squirrel. It's almost disappointing, and that's when it hits you. You miss it. The danger, the awe, the scale of it all. The raw, unfiltered aliveness of the Jurassic. Sure, it tried to eat you. Several times. But it also made you feel things you'd never felt before. Terror. Yes, but wonder too. The way a creature 80 feet long can move silently through a jungle. The way the sky felt heavier with all that ancient humidity. The way even your heartbeat seemed to sync with the rhythm of that primeval world. You pull out the fossil again. Hold it up to the light. Gleams softly. Faintly warm. Still. And you wonder, what was that cave? A portal? A time fracture? Some kind of natural anomaly? Historians still argue over whether the concept of time travel is purely science fiction or theoretically feasible. Quantum wormholes, folded dimensions, cosmic hiccups. Whatever it was, it chose you. And now you've got a souvenir. You tuck the fossil away, and stand. Your body still aches, but it's a manageable ache now. Familiar. Human. You walk toward a water fountain and catch your reflection in the metal. You look wild, eyes wide, skin sunburned, hair a mess. But there's something behind the exhaustion clarity. A quiet steadiness. You survived the Jurassic, and not just survived. You witnessed it not so. What now? You could try to forget it. Chalk it up to dehydration and a vivid imagination. Or you could dig, research, search for patterns. Look for that same spiral, scratched into stone or hidden in ancient carvings. Museums, caves, canyons. Who knows? Maybe this was just the first trip. Maybe that fossil is a key. And maybe, just maybe, you're not the only one who's held one. You spend the rest of the walk home in a daze. Cars zip by. People stare at their phones. No one looks like they've just returned from 150 million years in the past. Just you. You climb the stairs to your place. Let yourself in. Collapse onto the couch. Your floor feels incredible. Cool, flat, predictable. You're asleep in seconds. And this time, you dream. Not of being hunted, or running, or hiding. You dream of looking up at sky at wings, at possibility. You wake to a sound you haven't heard in what feels like centuries. Your phone alarm dot. It's jarring, artificial, grating, and it makes you jump like you're still dodging predator claws. You slap it off and lie there in stunned silence for a moment, staring at your ceiling like it's the most advanced piece of architecture you've ever seen. Which, compared to a steaming mud pit, it kind of is. Your room is exactly how you left it. Blankets on the floor, socks dangling off the edge of the dresser, a coffee mug with some questionable science growing in it. You sit up and look around, half expecting to see ferns creeping through your window or a trilobite scuttling across. The floor. Nope, just modern mess. And yet you don't feel modern. You stand slowly, testing your balance. Everything aches, not metaphorically. Your muscles are sore in places you didn't know could be sore. Your palms are scuffed. Your shins look like they went through a cheese grater. You make your way to the mirror and stare at yourself. You, but rougher, wiser, slightly haunted. And there it is again, tucked on your dresser, where you must have dropped it before collapsing. The fossil. Perfect spiral. Still faintly warm. You pick it up and turn it over in your hand for the 100th time, hoping it'll do something. Pulse. Glow. Anything to tell you the experience wasn't a fluke, but it just sits there. Quiet. You put it in your pocket again and head to the kitchen. As you sip the world's most disappointing cup of instant coffee, a part of you wants to scream this story into the world. Go viral. Get interviewed. I survived the Jurassic period, my 24-hour nightmare among the dinosaurs. But who'd believe? You? You barely believe yourself. So you stay silent. Instead, you open your laptop. Start typing keywords. Spiral fossil symbols. Cave time portals. Jurassic timeline anomalies. You scroll through conspiracy forums, archaeology, blogs, niche history sites. You find a few coasts. Strange reports of people who vanished in forests and returned days later, babbling about prehistoric creatures. Spiral carvings found deep in ancient volcanic caves, always dismissed as meaningless patterns. You feel something twist in your gut. Familiar hum. Low. Electric. The fossil is vibrating. Not visibly, just in your hand. Like it knows you're paying attention again. Your screen flickers. Just once. You blink. Shake your head. Maybe it's sleep deprivation. Or maybe it's starting again. You leave your coffee untouched and head outside. Fossil in your pocket, phone in hand. You start to walk somewhere green. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere the air feels heavy, like it's pressing up against another. Time. The local botanical garden seems like a good start. You arrive an hour later. Everything is calm. Families with strollers. Butterflies on milkweed. A statue of Darwin holding a book, looking smug. You wander past the ferns, past the cycads, past a section labeled Prehistoric Flora. You stop. It's a small exhibit. Palm-like trees, horsetails, even a replica of a ginkgo from the Jurassic era. You step inside. The air shifts. Just a little warmer, wetter. Familiar. The fossil in your pocket glows faintly, just enough that you notice. You reach out to touch the ginkgo leaf replica, and the moment your fingers brush it, everything tilts. The light bends. The sound of the modern world dulls, then disappears. A wind rustles the leaves, not the soft breeze of an air-conditioned dome, but the deep, humid breath of ancient earth. And you hear it again, thump far off, then closer. You close your eyes and smile. Here we go again. This time, the transition feels smoother, less like being yanked through the universe by a confused thunder god, and more like sinking into a warm bath of deep time. You open your eyes. You're not in the botanical garden anymore. You're back in the Jurassic. Same humid air. Same ferny fragrance. Same far off, stomach-nodding thump, thump, thump that suggests something enormous is approaching with zero regard for personal space. But this time, something's different. You're not panicking. Not yet, anyway. You take a step forward, brushing aside the curtain of tall cycads. Your feet remember how to tread softly. Your lungs remember how to sip the thick, oxygen-rich air. Your eyes scan for movement without needing to be told. The survival part of your brain has clearly decided. All right, we've done this before. You duck beneath a low tree, round a large root knotted like a prehistoric pretzel, and enter a clearing that seems vaguely familiar. That stump, those vines, that faint trail of trampled grass. Yes, you've been here. You're back on the same route. The fossil, now glowing softly like an ancient firefly buzzes against your thigh. Not painfully, just insistently. Like it's pulling you somewhere. Guiding, you follow. The jungle. Parts ahead of you, as though it remembers you too. A branch here, a gap there. Even the bugs seem less aggressive. No one still buzzes by your ear in a tone that says, "You again?" You walk until the trees thin out into another rise. A volcanic rock. You climb, not slipping this time. You know where to place your hands. You know which patch of moss is a trap dot at the top. The same plateau. The same breathtaking view. And sitting on the rock where you sat last time, someone else. Your heart stutters. It's a kid. Maybe 12, 13. Clothes torn, face sunburned, knees scraped, holding a stone spiral in their palm like it's the last piece of candy in the world. You step into the light and say gently, "Hey." They jump, scramble back. Eyes wide with terror. You raise your hands. "It's okay. I've been here too." They stare at you, not fully convinced. You sit on the opposite side of the rock, giving them space. "First time?" You ask softly. They nod. You chuckle. "Yeah, mine too." You both sit in silence. The sound of ancient wind rustling through cycads around you. A pair of flying reptiles wheel overhead, silent shadows against a deepening sky. Eventually, they speak. "I thought I was going to die." "Me too," you reply. "Pretty sure I almost did, a few times." The kid looks at the fossil in their hand. "It brought me here. I found it in a cave." You nod. "So did I." You both sit, not saying much, not needing to. Just too unwilling. Time travelers waiting for the world to stop spinning. Then they ask, "Do you think we're supposed to do something?" You glance at your fossil, still glowing. "I think we're supposed to learn something," you say. "About this place, about us." "Like what?" You think about it. Like how small we are, and how strong, and how it's possible to be both. The kid nods slowly, and just then you hear it again. The storm, not overhead, not in the clouds, but from deep within the earth. A low rumble, growing. You stand. Look toward the horizon. Lightning flickers near the volcano. Smoke spirals upward again. History is repeating. You turn to the kid. Time to go. How? You hold out your hand. We walk. And when the spiral glows again, we follow it. They hesitate. Then take your hand. You both start down the trail. Back into the jungle, side by side you. A little wiser them. A little braver. And both of you somehow part of the story far older than you realized. The jungle feels different when you're not alone. Every branch you push aside, every squelch of moss underfoot, every distant roar, you're experiencing it together now. The kid walks close to you, eyes darting, fossil clenched tightly in one. F-I-S-T. You don't blame them. You remember the panic, the disorientation, the realization that there are no maps, no rules, no pause buttons here. You glance down at your own fossil, still glowing. Warmer now, the two of you move carefully down the slope, following a trail that only the fossil seems to recognize. It guides you past the steaming vents from last time. This time, you know not to breathe in too deeply when the sulfur hits. You wave a warning behind you, and the kid copies your shallow breathing, nose wrinkled. I thought this place would be cool. They mumble through a cough, like dinosaurs and stuff. Not all the death. You snort. Yeah, the postcards lie. The jungle opens into the wide glade again. You pause. Look for signs of danger, nothing. Yet you make your way to a low stream familiar, clear, cold. You both kneel and drink. The kid dips their hand in, watching it swirl around their fingers. You said this wasn't your first time here? You nod. Not even my first near-death experience. They raise an eyebrow, so you tell them. Quietly. Bits and pieces. The raptor chase. The carnivore standoff. The spirals. The cave. How you got home, and then how you came back. They listen, eyes wide. Why? Would you come back? You look around, at the sheer vastness of it all. The plants. The sky. The sense of being in a moment untouched by time, because it changes you, you say softly. And because someone has to help the next person not die their first 10 minutes in. They stare at you, processing, and then you both freeze. The sound returns, not stomping, cracking trees, snapping. One after another, something is charging through the jungle, and it's coming fast. Run. You whisper, but it's too late. The underbrush bursts open, and a small herd of dinosaurs, something like ancient ostriches, with long legs and stubby wings, explodes into the glade, sprinting full speed. Behind them, crashing through like an organic bulldozer, is something massive. You grab the kid's hand and run. It's the second time today, and your legs aren't thrilled, but adrenaline overrides complaints. You weave between the running herd, dodging claws and beaks, the thunderous steps of a predator you never want to see up close, growing louder behind you. Ground shakes a roar, not a cinematic, clean roar, but a raw, grating blast of noise that makes your bones buzz, tears through the air. You and the kid dive into the undergrowth, just in time. The predator may be an Allosaurus, or something worse, charges past, single-minded in pursuit. Its hide is jagged, its eyes hollow with hunger. It doesn't stop, doesn't glance sideways, just hunts, and then it's gone. Just like that, silence rushes in to fill the void. You lie there, face pressed to the moss, breathing like you just sprinted through a thunderstorm, which is more or less what just happened next to you. The kid cough. Hate this place. You laugh, a tired, wheezy laugh. Yeah, but you're surviving. And weirdly, you are. You both are when you finally sit up. Your hand brushes the fossil in your pocket. It pulses once. Stronger than before. The kid pulls. There's out too. It's glowing, not just faintly. It's bright. The jungle around you shifts again, the colors deepen. The air thickens, like the environment is folding itself inward. A low hum, like distant chanting, hums through the leaves. It's happening. You whisper, "We're close." You help the kid to their feet, and you both follow the pull. Past the clearing, back through the ferns, into a narrow gorge with sharp, mossy stones and walls, closing in tight at the end. The cave same spirals, same stillness. But now the stones along the walls glow with that soft, impossible blue. The kid hesitates, looks at you. You sure? You? Nod. Time to go home. You both step into the glow, and the light takes you.